Welcome back. So now we're going to look at some of the applications we discussed in the first video. So we start off with Apache Pig. Uh, this essentially has two components, Pig Latin, which is like a high-level language that lets you write some of these uh, processes very easily, and an infrastructure layer which basically takes what you wrote in Pig Latin and transforms it into the backend MapReduce jobs or Thais jobs or anything that's backending Pig essentially. Uh, and we'll look at some of the typical use cases, and we'll do a quick run with Pig on the VM that you have, so that you get familiar with the use cases usage. As I said, all these will have very detailed modules upcoming, so this is just a high-level overview. So the next thing to look at is what are the types of types of applications people use this for. It's essentially a platform for data processing. As I mentioned, Pig Latin is the high-level language in which you can do the scripting. It's coupled to an execution environment. It can be local on a given node if you're doing some quick tests. It can be MapReduce in Hadoop, or it can be Thais, which again works through Yarn on Hadoop. The nice thing with Pig is there's a lot of inbuilt operator functions. For example, you can do evaluation functions like averages and minimum and maximum, string manipulation functions, math functions like random number generation, absolute values, things like that. A lot of data load store functions. So that's makes it easy to develop a new process because there's a lot of existing functionality. But the other nice thing is it is extensible, so you can write custom functions if you have complex processing to do. There's a lot of places it's used. It's a nice tool to do standard ETL, extract, transform, load data operations. It's good for manipulating raw data, and there's a huge list of vendors and applications using this in that link that's there. So essentially, it provides you a high-level language interface to do what you want to do in terms of data processing. So let's do a simple example to see how this works. So open up your Cloudera Quick Start VM, open a terminal, and let's take the local Linux password file and see what we can do with it. So we start by sticking the data in HDFS. So if you remember your HDFS commands, it's HDFS dfs -put /etc password /user Cloudera. Now, this is a command you can just copy and paste. It's a single line. And if you're not familiar with HDFS in detail, that's okay. We're going to do that in the upcoming lessons, but this is a way to put data into HDFS essentially. And user Cloudera is a default home directory for Cloudera, which should already be there. So we are doing, now we have the data in HDFS. Now we're going to take a look at how to use Pig to analyze some of this data. So we're going to use the MapReduce option. So we're going to run Pig with MapReduce. So do pig-x MapReduce, and that should put you in the Pig interactive shell, which should have a prompt called grunt, which is the Pig interactive shell. So you might see a lot of information and warning messages because you're using the backend MapReduce, and it'll talk about all the Hadoop details. You can clear the screen by just typing clear. Now let's load the file that we just stuck in HDFS. So the command is a = load, and then encodes the location of the file. So remember, we put it in user Cloudera, so we're going to do user Cloudera password. And notice it says using Pig storage and colon in quotes there. Essentially, by default, Pig's looking for commas as the separators. So here we are basically telling it that the separator is a colon, and in a password file, that's how it looks. So once we do that, what we are doing is subsetting part of the data. So we're getting essentially for each of these lines generating the first, fifth, and sixth values. So 0, 4, and 5 in that context. And we are just dumping that. So as soon as you do that, you'll see a lot of information flowing on your screen. Basically, the backend Hadoop execution job gets launched, and you can see all the details there. You can see the Hadoop job running essentially. And once it finishes, you'll see its output of the username, full name, and home directory path. And essentially, if you go back and look at your password file, the first, fifth, and sixth fields essentially correspond to this. And we've essentially used the MapReduce job to extract that data and print it out. So as you can see, on the back end, there's a lot of processing going on and a lot of MapReduce functionality that's being invoked. But on the front end, it was a very simple load and execution commands were very simple. So that's the nice part of using a high-level language, is you could develop your processing very easily. Now, once your processing is done, you can actually output that file into HDFS too. So the command is pretty simple. You do store B into whatever location you want. So yeah, I chose userinfo.out here. And what it's going to do is essentially create a directory. And if you go back and do an HDFS DFS ls, and this is the listing command for HDFS, you'll see that the new directory is being created and the data in it exists. So that's a quick overview of like how you might run Pig with the MapReduce backend and do a simple operation like taking basically a password file and separating the values you need out of it. And you see how easy it was on the command line side and what it translates to on the back end, all the MapReduce info that you saw. So what we did right now is to use the interactive shell grunt for the Pig example, but you can actually run this using scripts. You can also embed it in a host language like Java, for example, and you'll see all this in the upcoming module on Apache Pig. So there's a lot more detail coming, but hopefully you got a quick overview of what you can do and how you can use Pig.